Mason said I had to talk about dandelion. I'm just kidding.
Well, it's true.
You'd like casually drop that like 3 times,
Yeah.
so I was like quick to pick up the hint.
Yeah, I want to hear what you have to say about one of my favorite plants.
I know. I love that this is one of your favorite plants because it's one of my favorite plants on so many different levels. Dandelions. You know what I don't get, Mason? So one of my very favorite times of year is when the lawn bursts into dandelion flower. We're kind of right on the precipice of this right now. And like as far as the eye can see, we can kind of see it from our view here, like past the camera and stuff. There's just dandelions everywhere. It's like these little nuggets of gold, like that fill the lawn.
Yeah.
And there's bees and beetles and spiders and ladybugs and all of these different beings so thrilled that the dandelion is here. And it's so beautiful. And people literally poison the earth and their own water tables in order to prevent this beauty from happening. Like, that's kind of fucked up.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
It really is. Like, it just, like, I know we all know that, but, like, if I start to think about it even a little bit, I'm just like, I don't get it. I really don't get it.
Can I share a quick story with you?
Please do.
We were just staying in an RV park. I won't say where or anything like that, but this person was using Roundup, spraying weeds on their tiny little, gravelly proper area, essentially. And it just seems so bizarre to me. I'm like, they're temporarily staying there, and they decided to pull out Roundup and start spraying these dandelions, and they don't even live there, you know what I mean? It was the most bizarre experience. I debated like talking to them or something. Like, I was deeply offended by it. It was, anyways, I just wanted to share that.
Well, I think there's something to be said for saying something. Like, as I've learned, yelling at people doesn't work. Like, I definitely have that, I know. But talking to people on a personal level, maybe even not strangers, even like our neighbors, to express, like, sometimes like they aren't ready to love dandelion the way that we are yet. We'll get there. But it's well known that Roundup causes problems. It's banned in Europe. And to talk about things, like a sibling or a friend or, family member who's gotten cancer and, it's like literally you're not supposed to use this around like children and animals and, even to talk about that, like some people really love their dogs or whatever, and to talk about like, let's make this place safe for us all. Sometimes that, especially if we talk about like shared values and not like, I'm going to tell you, everything you need to know and like finger wagging. Again, I know this because I have done this like ad nauseum. But I do think that it's not hard. Like once people have that, like, because I think that a lot of it's autopilot. Like they just think that they're supposed to spray Roundup or whatever, it's autopilot. Once we interrupt that, I don't think it's that hard to love dandelions because again, like this is so beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And then of course the dandelion has so many gifts that it offers us, which we could be here 2 hours talking about dandelion gifts. I definitely think that these flowers, they bring joy to the heart, just by looking at them, but also working with them is quite joyful. I used to make a lot of dandelion flower mead. And one year I got my husband involved in the harvesting of it, of which he was not entirely thrilled because it takes a lot. Sure. Yeah, it's kind of tedious and it takes a lot of work. But he helped me. And after a while, like we just started like laughing and having a great time. And I really do feel like that's just like the magic of dandelion. Like it just starts to infuse, that like pollen gets over your fingers and it just is a really happy experience. And it does make really great mead and makes great jelly, makes great fritters, makes great petals to sprinkle on salad, really high in lutein, which is wonderful for the eyes. And just wonderful nutrients as well as bringing the joy. There's a lot of dandelion lookalikes, and one way to know for sure, one of many ways, which we'll go over, is that dandelions, there's one flower for one stalk. So some dandelion lookalikes have like multiple flowers coming off the stalk. One flower, one stalk, and it's a hollow stalk. And sometimes it exudes a milk sap on it. There it goes. Sometimes, all the time. So that could be another way. With the dandelion flower, there's the yellow petals, aster family with ray and disc flowers. Then underneath it are these like bracts, which can be kind of bitter. And so I use my thumbnail to just kind of separate those two. So there's that bottom, the top. You can also separate the green parts here. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. One trick in working with dandelion flowers is that you have to wait for the sun to come out because they bloom with the sun, and they will close kind of later on in the day. But you have to harvest them and use them. If you harvest them and put them in a bag and put them in your fridge, they just become puff balls or they close up. So it's really like, now is the time. Like, I have the time to use them. I'm going to use them right now, is how you want to do that. I would say, though, probably the flowers are I don't use the flowers as much as other wonderful plant parts, like the leaves. This is a wonderful toothed leaf. Dandelion comes in a lot of shape and sizes, and sometimes people think that they can identify dandelion by the leaves. That's not a great indication for people if you're just starting out, because there's still a lot of leaves that look like dandelion. This has a lovely tooth appearance. Another thing about identifying dandelions, it has a smooth vein on the backside. If there's prickles there, or if it's fuzzy there, then that's not dandelion. Something really smooth. I love the leaves. In French, we call the leaves pissenlit, which sounds so beautiful. It means piss in the bed, which you will do. Hopefully not in the bed, but it's definitely a diuretic with the leaves. And one time I experienced that in a way I'll never forget it. I made dandelion pesto, which is one of my favorite ways to enjoy the plant as well as to convert others to enjoying the plant. So both of those are true. And so I made dandelion pesto, and I was at a friend's house, and I was sleeping in a loft with a ladder. It was kind of like a rickety ladder, you know, and so it was like my 5th time down that ladder in one night. And I was like, oh, it was the dandelion. What was I thinking? So it does work really well for that. And then just super nutritious. And I love that these, you know, some of our first spring greens, they have so much calcium, phosphorus, manganese, potassium. It's like pretty much all of those. It's in there. And a wonderful way to enjoy the plant. And this early spring, when these are young leaves like this, they're pretty good. They might have a like slight bitter taste to them, but it's kind of like a good, like, totally. Like kind of bites back a little bit. When they become like yeah, like a lion, thank you. When they become super old and like leathery feeling, sometimes that bitter taste is more challenging. So, and not really like something that my body is like, oh, please give me more of that, in the way the spring greens are. You know, my new favorite thing to do, which I hope I have time today to do for you and Amanda, is make dandelion greens hummus.
Oh, wow.
Which is essentially adding dandelion greens to a hummus recipe. It makes it green, and then just kind of gives it, you know, this different dandelion flavor. Sure. You decorate it with the flowers and pansies and violets, all these spring things. I hope I really have time to make that now.
We can pick the leaves for you if you want.
Sweet, yeah. So yeah, wonderful food, wonderful medicine. And then there are the roots deep below the earth. This long taproot that reaches into the earth and pulls up all sorts of nutrients. And that can also be wonderful medicine for the liver. And my favorite thing, like many people though, is to chop it up and roast it and make it into a dandelion beverage. And that is absolutely medicine. We drink that all the time, just as like dandelion love, you know, liver support and all of those nutrients. You can eat the root too. It's sweeter in the fall, and sometimes people say like in the fall it's better for food, and in spring it's used up the inulin, which I should talk about. It's used up the inulin, and it has less sweetness to it and is more bitter, and so that might be a better time for medicine. Inulin is really high in the leaves and in the roots, and people get pretty excited about taking expensive probiotics for like healthy gut flora. But really, continuing, it's kind of like emerging research, but it's really showing that what makes a bigger impact on your gut flora is eating fiber and eating things like inulin, which is a prebiotic. And so leaves and roots have inulin in them, so great way.
I did not know the leaves had the inulin as well. That's good to know.
So yeah, wonderful way to support healthy gut bacteria too. Yeah, what did I leave out?
I don't know. I really liked how you went from basically the flower, stem, leaf to the root. I thought that was really nice. You also were able to flex your botany skills. I liked how you talked about the various parts.
I forgot to mention that
yes.
the basil rosette is with
as
the leaves. Because again, like some plants will have like a stem and then multiple leaves off the stem, but all of these come from a central point in the ground. So that's another identifying feature. Oh, and look, now I see what I didn't talk about is dandelion buds.
Oh, yeah.
I love the buds. You can just harvest these like this, and again, take off those like bottom parts that can be kind of bitter. And you can just add these to salads and that sort of thing and just eat the dandelion bud. I also like to ferment them with radishes. It's just like a lacto-ferment or a sauerkraut ferment. And that's pretty good too.
Our mutual friend Aaron one time showed me a recipe. I don't remember, it's been years now, but it was some sort of pickled dandelion buds, and there was like tamari and ginger and honey in there and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it was actually really good. I want to do that this year if we can, but yeah.
But we really could spend a long time, and there's just so many benefits to dandelion.
Yeah, I guess my personal story is I always call it my gateway herb, and I know it probably is a lot of people's gateway herb, but I remember it was growing in my front lawn when I was in college, and someone told me that you could eat the leaves, and it just kind of blew my mind, and I was super stoked about that, and ever since then it's kind of become my symbol of getting into herbalism and stuff like that. So, but yeah, before that, I was just reflecting when you were talking about the blowing the seeds and stuff like that. I remember as a kid, I would purposely blow the seeds around to try to spread them. And it's just funny looking back now. I'm like, oh, that kind of makes sense to me. But
you're already tending this plant.
Kind of was, yeah, in a way, without knowing it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like to say that, like, if that dandelion brings joy with the flowers, and if that's not enough for you, then you can just blow the seeds and make wishes. Like a plant that gives free wishes is a plant that we can love all the time.
That's right.
But I think that there is a powerful action to be had for like the simple thing of helping our neighbors to love dandelion too, because it's something like, I don't want to get this wrong, but I want to say it's like 80 billion tons of Roundup gets sprayed by homeowners or renters and people at RV parks. So it's like, that's a huge impact that goes into our waterways. It affects our birds, our insects, and our well-being as well. So I think there's like a tremendous impact. At one point we thought, spraying DDT was a good idea. Yeah, right. And now we know it's not. And, it took silent spraying and a lot of other people's work around that. And I feel like there's a lot of potential for a grassroots movement. And again, not to yell at people and make them feel wrong, even though it's very tempting even for me, but by kind of bringing people in and having that shared values of wanting to live a happy, healthy life and wanting the same for our children and our animals. And so I think there's a really strong action around that, which not only our neighbors, but like in Seattle, there's pesticide-free parks, and it can be a matter of like talking to businesses and parks and, on that town level too. And a lot of places get sprayed. Again, like, look at how beautiful this is. Ooh, one of my favorite things last year, so last year, there was the dandelions, they were in flower. There's not one seed head right now because we're really at the beginning stages. Right. But then, then there's the seed heads. And last year, for a long time, I watched the sparrows and pine siskins come down and eat the dandelion seeds. Wow. Yeah, which was really sweet. I actually learned that from Cascade Anderson Geller. I didn't know we could really eat the seeds. But she taught me that, and then watching the birds. You just kind of come along into all these little flowers or seed heads, dandelion seed heads, and just eat them. And
are you saying humans are able to eat the seed heads too?
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Yeah, they take a lot of work. Like you could just like take the heads off, like, pew, and just kind of chomp on the seeds like that. But you could also like harvest a bunch of the seeds and put them in a paper bag, and like the fluff will like come off, and then you can kind of winnow it down. It's they are high in protein, but they're pretty small. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know, it's kind of something to do like for fun.
Yeah, I want to do it just for the energetic aspect. Yeah. I want to give it a shot.
Yeah. So much joy in the dandelion. That's right. Yeah. And certainly, that there's just such a powerful symbol coming up through sidewalk cracks and just reminding us that even cement isn't forever and plants are going to overcome and, and bringing us joy in sidewalk cracks too.
Amen.